Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Science Channel. Tonight we'll be exploring the invisible world that exists all around us, beneath our fingertips, in the air we breathe, and even inside our own bodies. A realm filled with life so small it defies the naked eye, yet so abundant it outnumbers the stars. We're talking about germs, microbes, bacteria, and all the tiny living things that share our world. Though invisible, they shape everything we know. They've been here far longer than we have, and they'll likely remain long after we're gone. The microscopic world is both ordinary and extraordinary, something we encounter every moment, yet rarely pause to consider. If you enjoy these quiet explorations, I invite you to like and subscribe, or share a simple thought down in the comments. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, all you need to do is rest, settle in, and allow the calm of this invisible world to carry you. Let's begin. The invisible kingdom bacteria were among Earth's first inhabitants, thriving billions of years ago. When Earth was young, harsh, and unrecognizable, life still found a way. The earliest organisms were simple, single-celled bacteria that emerged roughly 3.5 billion years ago. Back then, the planet was a very different place. The atmosphere lacked oxygen, volcanic activity dominated the landscape, and the oceans were warm and mineral-rich. Yet, in those extreme conditions, microscopic life began to stir. These ancient bacteria were pioneers, testing the boundaries of survival. Some learned to harness energy from sunlight. Others fed on chemicals seeping from hydrothermal vents deep beneath the ocean. They were resilient, adaptable, and endlessly inventive. Without them, nothing else would exist. Every plant, every animal, every breath of oxygen we take traces its origin back to these humble beginnings. The invisible world is not just ancient, it is foundational. To understand germs is to understand the very roots of life itself. A single bacterium can multiply into millions in just hours. Bacteria reproduce with astonishing speed through a process called binary fission. One cell simply splits into two identical copies. Under ideal conditions, with warmth, moisture, and nutrients, this can happen every 20 minutes. That means one bacterium can become 2, then 4, then 8. Within a few hours, a single cell can give rise to millions. By the end of a day, the numbers become astronomical. This rapid growth is what makes bacteria so successful. They can colonize new environments quickly, adapting to changes faster than larger organisms ever could. It also explains why infections can spread so swiftly, and why food left out too long becomes unsafe. Yet this same speed is also a reminder of life's incredible persistence. Even in the harshest conditions, bacteria find ways to thrive, multiply, and endure. Their rapid reproduction is not just a survival strategy, it's a testament to the power of simplicity. Most bacteria are harmless or even helpful to humans. When we hear the word germ, we often think of disease and danger. But the truth is far more nuanced. The vast majority of bacteria pose no threat to us at all. In fact, many are beneficial, even essential. Our bodies are home to trillions of bacteria, living peacefully on our skin, in our mouths, and especially in our digestive systems. These microbes help us digest food, produce vitamins, and protect us from harmful invaders. Without them, we would struggle to survive. Even in the environment, most bacteria play helpful roles. They break down dead matter, recycle nutrients, and maintain the balance of ecosystems. Only a tiny fraction of bacterial species cause illness. The microscopic world is not our enemy, it's our partner. To fear all germs is to misunderstand the intricate web of life that supports us every single day. Your body hosts more bacterial cells than human cells. It may sound unsettling at first, but your body is not entirely your own. For every human cell that makes up your tissues and organs, there are roughly equal numbers of bacterial cells living in and on you. Some estimates suggest trillions of microbes call your body home. They reside on your skin, in your mouth, and most abundantly in your gut. This collection of microorganisms is called your microbiome, and it's as unique as a fingerprint. No two people share the exact same microbial community. These bacteria are not invaders, they're residents. They've co-evolved with us over millennia, adapting to our bodies just as we've adapted to them. They help digest complex foods, synthesize vitamins like B12 and K, and even influence our mood and immune responses. Far from being a burden, this microscopic population is an integral part of what makes you, you. We are not solitary beings, but living ecosystems. The microbial world within. The human gut contains a vast ecosystem of microorganisms. Deep within your intestines lies a bustling metropolis of life. The gut microbiome is one of the most complex and diverse ecosystems on the planet, home to hundreds of different species of bacteria, along with fungi, viruses, and other microbes. Together, they form a community that weighs several pounds and plays a vital role in your health. These microbes break down fibers and nutrients your body can't digest on its own, turning them into compounds that nourish your cells. They also produce neurotransmitters like serotonin, which affects mood and mental health. Scientists have even found links between gut bacteria and conditions like anxiety, depression, and obesity. The gut is often called the second brain because of its profound influence on well-being. To care for your microbiome is to care for yourself. Eating a diverse diet rich in fiber, fermented foods, and whole grains feeds these helpful bacteria, keeping the ecosystem balanced and thriving. Some bacteria in your gut can weigh up to several pounds combined. It's hard to imagine that invisible organisms could have measurable weight, but the sheer number of bacteria in your intestines adds up. Estimates suggest that the collective mass of microbes in your gut can weigh anywhere from 1 to 3 pounds, roughly the weight of your brain. This mass is constantly shifting, responding to what you eat, how you sleep, and even your stress levels. When you consume probiotics or fermented foods, you're literally adding to this microbial community. When you take antibiotics, you may reduce it significantly, sometimes with lasting effects. The weight of these bacteria is a reminder of their abundance and importance. They're not just passengers, they're active participants in your biology. Every meal you eat feeds not just you, but the trillions of microbes that depend on you for survival, just as you depend on them. Your skin is home to millions of bacteria that protect you from harm. Your skin is not a sterile barrier, it's a living landscape. Every square inch is colonized by thousands of bacteria, fungi, and other microbes. On average, the human body hosts over 1 million bacteria per square centimeter of skin. These microbes form a protective layer, occupying space and resources that harmful pathogens might otherwise claim. They also produce substances that inhibit the growth of dangerous bacteria, acting like a microscopic security force. Different parts of your body host different communities. The bacteria on your forearm differ from those on your scalp or between your toes. Oily areas, dry patches, and moist folds each have their own unique populations. This diversity is a sign of health. Disrupting it too much through excessive washing or harsh chemicals can weaken your skin's natural defenses. The bacteria on your skin are your allies, silent guardians, working around the clock to keep you safe. Washing your hands removes germs, but never eliminates them completely. Hand washing is one of the simplest and most effective ways to prevent the spread of illness. Soap and water work together to lift dirt, oils, and microbes from your skin, rinsing them away down the drain. But no amount of scrubbing will leave your hands completely sterile. Within moments of drying, bacteria begin to repopulate your skin from deeper layers and from the environment around you. This is not a failure, it's normal. Your skin is meant to host a microbial community. The goal of hand washing is not to eliminate all bacteria, but to reduce the number of harmful ones, especially after using the restroom, before eating, or after touching potentially contaminated surfaces. Overwashing, especially with harsh soaps, can strip away the beneficial bacteria and oils that protect your skin, leaving it dry and vulnerable. Balance is key. Clean hands are healthy, but so is a thriving, diverse microbiome on your skin. Ancient survivors. Bacteria can survive in extreme environments where nothing else can. Some bacteria thrive in conditions that would instantly kill most other forms of life. These extremophiles, as they're called, live in boiling hot springs, freezing Antarctic ice, deep ocean trenches, and even highly acidic or salty environments. Some bacteria have been found living miles beneath the Earth's surface, feeding on minerals in solid rock. Others float in the upper atmosphere, enduring intense ultraviolet radiation. There are bacteria that thrive in nuclear waste, breaking down radioactive materials. These microbes teach us that life is far more resilient and adaptable than we ever imagined. They expand our understanding of what's possible, hinting that life might exist in the harsh conditions of other planets or moons. Extremophiles also have practical applications. Scientists study them to develop heat-resistant enzymes for industrial processes and to understand how life might survive in space. The microscopic world constantly surprises us with its tenacity. Some bacteria have been revived after being frozen for thousands of years. In the Arctic permafrost and deep Antarctic ice, scientists have discovered bacteria that have been frozen for millennia, sometimes tens of thousands of years. When carefully thawed in laboratories, some of these ancient microbes spring back to life, resuming their biological processes as if no time had passed. They're like biological time capsules, preserving a snapshot of life from ages long past. These discoveries raise profound questions about the nature of life and death. If bacteria can remain viable for thousands of years in suspended animation, what does that mean for the possibility of life on frozen worlds like Mars or the icy moons of Jupiter and Saturn? It also shows us the incredible durability of microbial life. While individual bacteria may seem fragile, their ability to enter dormant states and survive extreme conditions makes them nearly indestructible as a group. Bacteria were the first organisms to produce oxygen on Earth. Long before animals roamed the land or fish swam the seas, bacteria transformed our planet's atmosphere. About 2.5 billion years ago, cyanobacteria evolved the ability to perform photosynthesis, using sunlight to convert carbon dioxide and water into sugars, releasing oxygen as a byproduct. At first, this oxygen was absorbed by iron and other minerals in the oceans, but eventually, it began to accumulate in the atmosphere. This event, known as the Great Oxidation Event, fundamentally changed Earth. Oxygen was toxic to many organisms at the time, causing a massive die-off. But it also paved the way for new forms of life, including eventually all oxygen-breathing creatures. Every breath you take is a gift from ancient bacteria. They terraformed the entire planet, making it habitable for complex life. Without those microscopic pioneers, none of us would exist. The invisible world didn't just inhabit Earth, it created the conditions for everything that followed. Stromatolites are rock formations built by ancient bacteria. In shallow, warm waters around the world, strange layered rock structures rise from the seafloor. These are stromatolites, and they're among the oldest evidence of life on Earth. They're not rocks in the traditional sense, but rather the fossilized remnants of microbial mats, communities of bacteria, particularly cyanobacteria, that grew in layers over thousands of years. As the bacteria photosynthesized, they trapped sediment and minerals, slowly building up these distinctive formations. Stromatolites date back over 3 billion years, making them some of the earliest signs of life. Today, living stromatolites still exist in a few rare locations, like Shark Bay in Australia. They look almost identical to their ancient ancestors, a living link to Earth's primordial past. To see a stromatolite is to touch deep time, to witness a structure shaped by the same microscopic processes that began life's journey on this planet. The microbial world around us, bacteria, live in clouds, floating miles above Earth's surface. The sky is not empty. High above the ground, bacteria drift in clouds, riding air currents across continents and oceans. Scientists have collected samples from the upper atmosphere and found diverse communities of microbes suspended in the air. Some bacteria can survive the harsh conditions at high altitudes, including intense UV radiation, freezing temperatures, and desiccation. They enter a dormant state, waiting for favorable conditions to revive. These airborne bacteria play a role in weather patterns. Some species can act as nuclei for ice crystal formation, helping to seed clouds and influence precipitation. Every raindrop that falls may carry bacteria back to Earth, spreading them across vast distances. The atmosphere is a highway for microbial life, connecting ecosystems that seem isolated. Bacteria floating in clouds remind us that the microscopic world is not confined to surfaces or bodies. It permeates every layer of our planet, even the sky itself. A single teaspoon of soil contains more organisms than people on Earth. Soil is one of the richest habitats for microbial life. In just 1 teaspoon of healthy garden soil, there can be more than 1 billion bacteria, along with fungi, protozoa, and other microorganisms. That's more individuals than the entire human population of the planet, all thriving in a space you could hold in your palm. These microbes are essential for soil health. They break down organic matter, releasing nutrients that plants need to grow. They form partnerships with plant roots, helping them absorb water and minerals. Some bacteria even fix nitrogen from the air, converting it into forms plants can use. Without soil microbes, life on land as we know it would collapse. Forests, grasslands, and farms all depend on this invisible workforce. The next time you walk on soil, remember that beneath your feet lies one of Earth's most vibrant and essential ecosystems. Bacteria break down dead matter, recycling nutrients back into ecosystems. Death is not the end in nature, it's a transformation. When plants and animals die, bacteria and fungi go to work, breaking down tissues and returning nutrients to the soil, water, and air. This process, called decomposition, is essential for life to continue. Without decomposers, dead matter would pile up, locking away nutrients that living organisms need. Bacteria use enzymes to break down complex molecules, like proteins, fats, and carbohydrates into simpler compounds. These nutrients are then absorbed by plants, which are eaten by animals, continuing the cycle. Decomposition also releases carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere, where it can be used by photosynthetic organisms. Bacteria are the ultimate recyclers, ensuring that nothing goes to waste in nature. They close the loop, turning endings into beginnings. In the microscopic world, decay is not destruction, it's renewal. Cheese, yogurt, and bread all owe their flavors to bacteria and yeast. Some of the most beloved foods in human culture exist because of microbes. Cheese, for example, is made by adding specific bacteria to milk. These bacteria ferment lactose, producing lactic acid that curdles the milk and develops flavor. Different bacterial strains create different cheeses, from creamy brie to sharp cheddar. Yogurt is similar, cultured with bacteria that give it a tangy taste and thick texture. Bread rises because of yeast, a type of fungus that ferments sugars in dough, producing carbon dioxide bubbles that make it light and airy. Beer, wine, sauerkraut, kimchi, and countless other foods also rely on controlled fermentation by bacteria or yeast. Humans have harnessed the power of microbes for thousands of years, long before we understood what they were. These foods are not just delicious, they're collaborations between us and the invisible world, proof that microbes can be partners in creation. Germs and human history. Germs have shaped human history more than wars or empires. Invisible microbes have toppled civilizations, altered the outcomes of wars, and reshaped the course of history. The Black Death, caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, killed an estimated 1/3 of Europe's population in the 14th century, leading to massive social and economic upheaval. Smallpox, brought by European colonizers, devastated indigenous populations in the Americas, killing millions and enabling conquests that might otherwise have failed. The Spanish flu pandemic of 1918 killed more people than World War I itself. Throughout history, epidemics have forced migrations, toppled governments, and driven scientific innovation. Germs have influenced which armies won battles, which cities thrived, and which populations survived. Understanding this history humbles us. It shows that the smallest forms of life wield enormous power, shaping human destiny in ways we often overlook. To study germs is to study history itself, written in the invisible ink of microbes. The bubonic plague was caused by bacteria carried by fleas on rats. One of history's deadliest pandemics, the bubonic plague, was caused by a bacterium called Yersinia pestis. This microbe lived in fleas that infested rats, and as rats traveled on ships and through trade routes, they spread the disease across continents. When an infected flea bit a human, the bacteria entered the bloodstream, causing fever, swollen lymph nodes, and often death within days. The plague struck Europe in waves, with the most devastating outbreak occurring in the mid-1300s. Entire villages were wiped out. Cities lost half their populations. The social fabric of medieval Europe was torn apart. Yet, the plague also led to changes that shaped the modern world. Labor shortages gave peasants more bargaining power, weakening the feudal system. The devastation spurred advances in medicine and public health. A tiny bacterium, invisible to the naked eye, reshaped an entire era. Vaccines train your immune system by introducing harmless germs. Vaccination is one of humanity's greatest achievements, and it works by cleverly using the body's own defenses. Vaccines contain weakened, killed, or partial versions of pathogens, germs that can't cause disease, but are similar enough to train the immune system. When you receive a vaccine, your body encounters these harmless mimics and learns to recognize them. Your immune cells create memory, preparing to respond quickly if the real pathogen ever appears. This process provides protection without the risk of serious illness. Vaccines have eradicated smallpox, nearly eliminated polio, and prevented countless deaths from diseases like measles, tetanus, and influenza. They represent a partnership between science and the immune system, harnessing the body's natural ability to learn and adapt. To be vaccinated is to carry within you a history of defeated diseases, a library of defenses built from encounters with harmless imposters. Antibiotics revolutionized medicine by killing harmful bacteria. Before antibiotics, a simple infection could be deadly. A cut, a tooth abscess, or pneumonia could lead to death. Then, in 1928, Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin, the first true antibiotic, by accident, when he noticed that mold killed bacteria in a petri dish. This discovery transformed medicine. Antibiotics work by targeting specific structures or processes in bacterial cells, things that human cells don't have. Some antibiotics break down bacterial cell walls. Others interfere with protein production or DNA replication. The result is that bacteria die or stop reproducing, allowing the immune system to clear the infection. Since their introduction, antibiotics have saved millions of lives, making surgeries safer and once fatal diseases treatable. However, their power comes with responsibility. Overuse and misuse have led to the rise of antibiotic-resistant bacteria, a growing challenge for modern medicine. Antibiotics are miracles of science, but they must be used wisely to preserve their effectiveness. Antibiotic resistance is a growing challenge for modern medicine. Bacteria are remarkably adaptable. When exposed to antibiotics, most die, but occasionally, a few survive due to random genetic mutations that make them resistant. These survivors reproduce, passing on their resistance to their offspring. Over time, entire populations of bacteria can become immune to drugs that once killed them easily. This process, called antibiotic resistance, is accelerated by overuse of antibiotics in medicine and agriculture. When antibiotics are prescribed unnecessarily or not taken as directed, it creates conditions where resistant bacteria thrive. Today, some infections are becoming harder or even impossible to treat with existing drugs. Diseases once thought conquered are returning in forms that resist multiple antibiotics. Scientists are searching for new solutions, from developing novel drugs to exploring alternatives like bacteriophages, viruses that specifically target bacteria. The battle against antibiotic resistance is a reminder that the microscopic world is always evolving, and we must evolve our strategies too. The invisible helpers bacteria in your gut help you digest food you couldn't process alone. Much of what you eat would be useless to your body without the help of gut bacteria. Complex carbohydrates, fibers, and certain nutrients can't be broken down by human enzymes alone. Instead, bacteria in your intestines do the heavy lifting. They ferment these materials, breaking them down into short-chain fatty acids and other compounds your body can absorb and use for energy. Some bacteria also synthesize vitamins that your body needs but can't produce, like vitamin K, which is essential for blood clotting, and certain B vitamins. When you eat fermented foods like yogurt, kefir, or sauerkraut, you're introducing beneficial bacteria that support this process. Your gut microbiome is like an external digestive organ, invisible yet indispensable. Without it, you'd be unable to extract the full nutritional value from food, and your health would suffer. Every meal is a collaboration between you and trillions of microscopic partners. Probiotics are live bacteria that can improve your health. Not all bacteria are already inside you. Some you can add deliberately. Probiotics are live microorganisms, usually bacteria or yeast, that confer health benefits when consumed in adequate amounts. They're found in fermented foods like yogurt, kombucha, miso, and kimchi, and also available as dietary supplements. Probiotics can help restore balance to your gut microbiome, especially after it's been disrupted by antibiotics illness, or poor diet. They may improve digestion, reduce symptoms of irritable bowel syndrome, boost immune function, and even influence mood and mental health. Different strains offer different benefits. Lactobacillus and bifidobacterium are among the most studied. While probiotics aren't a cure-all, they represent a way to actively support the microbial communities that support you. Consuming them is an acknowledgement that health is not just about what you avoid, but also about what you welcome into your body. Some bacteria produce compounds that fight off harmful invaders. The bacteria living in and on your body don't just take up space, they actively defend it. Many beneficial bacteria produce antimicrobial compounds, substances that inhibit or kill harmful bacteria, fungi, or viruses. These natural antibiotics help protect you from infections without you ever knowing. For example, certain bacteria on your skin produce fatty acids that create an acidic environment, making it harder for pathogens to survive. In your gut, beneficial bacteria produce bacteriocins, proteins that specifically target harmful strains. They also compete for nutrients and attachment sites, crowding out invaders before they can establish themselves. This invisible warfare happens constantly, a microscopic battle for territory and resources. Your beneficial bacteria are like a standing army, patrolling your body and neutralizing threats before they can cause harm. Supporting them through good nutrition and hygiene helps maintain this protective shield. Bacteria help plants grow by fixing nitrogen in the soil. Plants need nitrogen to build proteins and grow, but they can't use the nitrogen gas that makes up most of the atmosphere. That's where certain bacteria come in. Nitrogen-fixing bacteria, often living in root nodules of legumes like beans, peas, and clover, convert atmospheric nitrogen into forms plants can absorb. This natural process is essential for agriculture and ecosystems. Without it, plants would struggle to get enough nitrogen, and food production would plummet. Farmers have known for centuries that planting legumes improves soil fertility, though they didn't understand why until scientists discovered these bacteria. Today, understanding this relationship helps promote sustainable farming. By rotating crops and encouraging nitrogen-fixing plants, farmers can reduce the need for synthetic fertilizers, which are energy-intensive to produce and can harm the environment. Once again, bacteria are silent partners, quietly performing essential tasks that support life on a massive scale. The world of viruses. Viruses are even smaller than bacteria and can't reproduce on their own. While bacteria are living cells, viruses occupy a gray area. They're incredibly small, often 100 times smaller than bacteria, and consist of genetic material, DNA or RNA, wrapped in a protein coat. Unlike bacteria, viruses can't reproduce independently. They must invade a living cell, hijack its machinery, and force it to make copies of the virus. Once enough new viruses are created, they burst out of the cell, often destroying it, and go on to infect others. Because of this dependency, scientists debate whether viruses are truly alive or simply molecular machines. What's clear is that they're everywhere. Viruses infect all forms of life, from bacteria to plants to animals. They're estimated to outnumber all other biological entities on Earth combined. Some cause disease, but others play roles in regulating populations and even transferring genes between species. Viruses are tiny, but their impact is immense. Bacteriophages are viruses that only infect bacteria, not humans. Not all viruses target humans or animals. Some specialize in infecting bacteria, and they're called bacteriophages, or simply phages. These viruses attach to bacterial cells, inject their genetic material, and use the bacteria to reproduce. Eventually, the bacterial cell bursts open, releasing new phages. Phages are incredibly specific. Each type usually infects only one or a few bacterial species. This specificity makes them potential alternatives to antibiotics. Scientists are researching phage therapy, using viruses to target and kill antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Phages have been used for decades in some countries, though they're less common in Western medicine. They're also abundant in nature, especially in oceans and soil, where they help regulate bacterial populations. Every day, phages kill an estimated half of all bacteria on Earth, maintaining balance in ecosystems. These tiny predators remind us that even bacteria have enemies, keeping the microscopic world in constant flux. The common cold is caused by hundreds of different virus strains. The common cold is frustratingly persistent, and one reason is its diversity. There's no single cold virus. Instead, over 200 different viral strains can cause cold symptoms, with rhinoviruses being the most common culprits. Each strain is slightly different, which is why you can catch a cold multiple times in a single year. Your immune system develops defenses against the specific strain you've encountered, but it won't necessarily protect you against the next one. This diversity also explains why there's no cure or universal vaccine for the cold. By the time scientists target one strain, others continue to circulate. Colds are usually mild, though annoying, and they resolve on their own as your immune system clears the infection. The persistence of the common cold is a reminder of nature's endless variation. Even the simplest microbes come in countless forms, each one slightly different, adapting and evolving. Flu viruses mutate rapidly, which is why vaccines are updated yearly. Influenza is a moving target. The viruses that cause flu mutate quickly, changing their surface proteins in a process called antigenic drift. These mutations mean that the flu virus you encounter one year may be different enough from last year's strain that your immune system doesn't fully recognize it. That's why flu vaccines are reformulated annually. Scientists monitor circulating flu strains worldwide and predict which ones are most likely to spread in the coming season. The vaccine is then updated to match those predictions. Some years the match is good, offering strong protection. Other years, unexpected strains emerge, reducing vaccine effectiveness. Despite this challenge, annual flu vaccination remains the best defense. It reduces the risk of severe illness, hospitalization, and death. The flu's constant evolution is a reminder that the microscopic world never stands still, and neither can our responses to it. The hidden microbial world fungi are a separate kingdom, distinct from bacteria. While we often lump bacteria and fungi together as germs, they're fundamentally different. Fungi, which include yeasts, molds, and mushrooms, belong to their own biological kingdom, more closely related to animals than to bacteria. Fungal cells have a nucleus and complex internal structures, unlike bacteria, which are simpler and lack a nucleus. Fungi can't make their own food like plants. Instead, they absorb nutrients from their surroundings. Some are decomposers, breaking down dead organic matter. Others are parasites, causing diseases like athlete's foot or ringworm. Still others form beneficial partnerships with plants, helping them absorb water and minerals in exchange for sugars. Mushrooms we see above ground are just the fruiting bodies. The bulk of a fungus exists underground as a network of thread-like structures called mycelium. Fungi play essential roles in ecosystems, and without them, nutrient cycles would collapse. They're yet another reminder of the incredible diversity of the microscopic world. Some fungi form vast underground networks connecting trees. Beneath forests, an invisible web spreads through the soil. Mycorrhizal fungi form partnerships with tree roots, extending far beyond what the roots alone could reach. These fungal networks, sometimes called the wood wide web, connect multiple contented trees, even different species, allowing them to share water, nutrients, and chemical signals. If one tree is stressed or under attack by pests, it can send warning signals through the fungal network to others, which then boost their defenses. Older, larger trees can support younger saplings by sharing resources through these connections. This underground collaboration challenges our view of forests as collections of competing individuals. Instead, they're cooperative communities, linked by fungi that benefit from the relationship by receiving sugars from the trees. The fungal network is a reminder that life thrives through connection and cooperation, even in ways we can't see. Yeast is a fungus used to make bread, beer, and wine. Yeast is a single-celled fungus, and it's been humanity's partner in fermentation for thousands of years. When yeast consumes sugars, it produces carbon dioxide and alcohol as byproducts. In bread, the carbon dioxide forms bubbles that make dough rise, creating light, fluffy loaves. In beer and wine, the alcohol is the desired product, along with complex flavors developed during fermentation. Different yeast strains produce different results. Bakers use Saccharomyces cerevisiae, the same species used by brewers, though in different strains. Winemakers carefully select yeasts to influence the aroma and taste of their wines. Wild yeasts, naturally present on grape skins, have been used for millennia to ferment wine without any additions. Yeast is easy to grow and work with, which is why it's also a workhorse in scientific research, helping us understand genetics and cell biology. This humble fungus has shaped human culture, from ancient brewing traditions to modern molecular biology. Mold is a type of fungus that can grow on old food. Mold, the fuzzy growth that appears on forgotten leftovers, is a fungus sending out spores to colonize new territory. Molds thrive in moist, warm environments, which is why they appear on bread, fruit, cheese, and other foods left too long. They reproduce by releasing spores into the air, invisible particles that land on surfaces and sprout into new colonies. While some molds are harmless or even beneficial, like the mold used to make blue cheese or penicillin, others produce toxins that can make you sick. That's why it's best to discard moldy food, rather than just cutting off the visible part, since mold can spread deeper than what you see. Mold plays an important ecological role, breaking down organic material and returning nutrients to the soil. Indoors, though, it's a reminder to keep things dry and fresh, respecting the speed at which fungi can colonize the world around us. Immune defenders. Your immune system recognizes and destroys harmful invaders. Your body is constantly under siege from bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites. Yet most of the time, you remain healthy. That's thanks to your immune system, a complex network of cells, tissues, and organs that work together to defend you. The immune system has two main branches. The innate immune system responds quickly to any threat, using barriers like skin, chemical signals, and white blood cells that attack anything foreign. The adaptive immune system is slower but more precise. It learns to recognize specific pathogens and remembers them, providing long-lasting immunity. White blood cells, called lymphocytes, including T cells and B cells, play key roles in identifying and destroying invaders. Antibodies, proteins produced by B cells, latch onto pathogens and mark them for destruction. The immune system is a marvel of biological engineering, constantly learning and adapting to protect you from the invisible threats all around. White blood cells patrol your body, hunting for germs. Inside your bloodstream and tissues, white blood cells move like sentinels, searching for signs of infection. These cells come in several types, each with specialized roles. Neutrophils are the most common and act as first responders, rushing to sites of infection to engulf and digest bacteria. Macrophages are larger scavengers that consume dead cells and debris. Lymphocytes, including T cells and B cells, coordinate more targeted attacks and create immune memory. Some white blood cells release chemical signals to recruit reinforcements. Others produce antibodies or directly kill infected cells. Together, they form a coordinated defense force, constantly alert and ready to respond. When you have an infection, your bone marrow produces more white blood cells, which is why blood tests showing elevated white cell counts can indicate illness. These microscopic warriors work tirelessly, often sacrificing themselves in the battle against invaders to keep you healthy and safe. Fever is your body's way of fighting off infections. When you feel feverish, it's not the infection causing the heat, it's your immune system. Fever is a deliberate response. When your body detects invaders, immune cells release chemicals called pyrogens that signal the brain to raise your body's temperature. This elevated temperature makes life harder for many bacteria and viruses, which thrive at normal body temperature. Fever also speeds up immune responses, making white blood cells more active and efficient. While it can feel uncomfortable, a mild fever is usually helpful. It's your body fighting back. Of course, very high fevers can be dangerous and need medical attention, but moderate fevers are part of the healing process. That's why doctors often recommend letting a low-grade fever run its course rather than immediately suppressing it with medication. Your body knows what it's doing. Fever is ancient, effective medicine, older than any drug, evolved over millions of years to help you survive. Inflammation is your body's response to injury and infection. When you cut your finger, the area becomes red, swollen, warm, and painful. This is inflammation, and while it's uncomfortable, it's also essential. Inflammation is your immune system rushing to the scene. Blood vessels dilate, increasing blood flow to the area, which brings white blood cells and nutrients needed for healing. The redness and warmth come from this increased circulation. Swelling occurs as fluid leaks from blood vessels into surrounding tissues, creating space for immune cells to work. Pain alerts you to the injury, encouraging you to protect the area while it heals. Inflammation isn't limited to visible injuries. It also occurs internally in response to infections or tissue damage. Chronic inflammation, however, when the response doesn't shut off properly, can contribute to diseases like arthritis, heart disease, and diabetes. Acute inflammation is protective, a sign your body is repairing itself with remarkable precision. Mucus traps germs before they can enter your body. Mucus often gets a bad reputation, but it's one of your body's most important defenses. This sticky substance lines your respiratory tract, digestive system, and other vulnerable areas, acting as a physical barrier. When you breathe, bacteria, viruses, dust, and other particles get trapped in the mucus before they can reach deeper into your lungs. Tiny hair-like structures called cilia then sweep the mucus upward toward your throat, where you either swallow it or cough it out. Your stomach acid then destroys most of what was trapped. Mucus also contains antibodies and antimicrobial enzymes that attack germs directly. When you have a cold, your body produces extra mucus to flush out the infection. While it's annoying, it's actually helping you heal. Mucus is your body's flypaper, constantly capturing and removing threats you never even notice. Microscopic mysteries scientists estimate there are 1 trillion species of microbes on Earth. The diversity of the microscopic world is staggering and largely unexplored. Scientists estimate there may be as many as 1 trillion different species of microorganisms on Earth, though only a tiny fraction have been identified and studied. Most of these species remain unknown, living in environments we can't easily access or haven't yet examined. They thrive in deep ocean trenches, inside rocks miles underground, in polar ice, and in countless other niches. Each new environment scientists explore reveals previously unknown microbes with unique abilities. Some produce compounds that could become new medicines. Others might help clean up pollution or provide sustainable energy. The microscopic world is a vast frontier, mostly unmapped, holding secrets that could revolutionize medicine, agriculture, and technology. Every sample of soil, water, or air contains microbes science has never documented. The invisible kingdom is far larger and more diverse than we ever imagined. Most microorganisms remain unknown to science. Despite centuries of study, we've only scratched the surface of microbial diversity. Scientists have formally described and named roughly 30,000 species of bacteria, but genetic surveys suggest millions, perhaps billions, more exist. The challenge is that most microbes can't be grown in laboratory conditions, so traditional methods of studying them don't work. Modern DNA sequencing has opened new doors, allowing scientists to identify microbes based on genetic material collected from the environment without needing to culture them. These surveys reveal entire branches of the tree of life we knew nothing about. Some of these microbes live in extreme environments. Others are simply overlooked because they're rare or difficult to detect. Each discovery adds to our understanding of life's diversity and capabilities. The microscopic world remains mostly mysterious, a reminder that despite our technological advances, nature still holds countless secrets waiting to be revealed. Some bacteria communicate with each other using chemical signals. Bacteria aren't solitary individuals acting randomly. Many species communicate through a process called quorum sensing. They release chemical signals into their environment, and when enough bacteria are present, the concentration of these signals reaches a threshold. This triggers coordinated behavior across the population. For example, bacteria might wait until their numbers are high enough before releasing toxins or forming biofilms, protective communities that are harder to eliminate. This communication allows bacteria to act collectively, behaving almost like a multicellular organism. Understanding quorum sensing has important implications. If scientists can disrupt these signals, they might prevent bacterial infections from establishing or disable antibiotic-resistant colonies. It's a reminder that bacteria, despite their simplicity, exhibit complex social behaviors. They're not mindless cells, but organisms that sense their environment and coordinate with others to survive and thrive. Biofilms are protective communities where bacteria stick together. When bacteria attach to surfaces, they often don't stay isolated. They form biofilms, slimy communities encased in a self-produced protective matrix. Biofilms can form on almost any surface, from rocks in streams to medical implants in human bodies. Within these structures, bacteria are shielded from antibiotics, disinfectants, and immune cells, making infections much harder to treat. The slimy film you feel on your teeth each morning is a biofilm, which is why brushing and flossing are so important. In nature, biofilms can be beneficial, helping break down pollutants or recycling nutrients. In medicine, they're a serious challenge, coating catheters, heart valves, and other devices. Research into disrupting biofilms is ongoing, seeking ways to break through these defenses without harming surrounding tissues. Biofilms show us that bacteria are sophisticated architects, building fortresses that protect entire communities. Bacteria can exchange genes with each other, spreading resistance. Bacteria don't just pass genes to their offspring. They can also share genetic material directly with other bacteria, even different species, through a process called horizontal gene transfer. This happens in several ways. Some bacteria absorb DNA from their environment, left behind when other cells die. Others form physical connections and transfer genes between cells. Viruses can also carry genes from one bacterium to another. This gene sharing is how antibiotic resistance spreads so quickly. A bacterium that develops resistance to a drug can pass that advantage to countless others, sometimes within hours. This fluidity makes bacteria incredibly adaptable and difficult to control. But it also hints at evolutionary strategies completely different from what we see in plants and animals. For bacteria, genetic information is communal, a shared resource that flows through populations. It's evolution on fast forward, and it's one reason the microscopic world is so resilient. The invisible ocean. Oceans are filled with countless microorganisms we never see. The ocean may look empty, but it's teeming with microscopic life. Every liter of seawater contains billions of bacteria and viruses, along with countless other microorganisms. These tiny creatures form the base of the marine food web. Phytoplankton, microscopic algae and bacteria that photosynthesize, produce at least half of the oxygen we breathe. They're the ocean's invisible forests, capturing sunlight and converting carbon dioxide into organic matter. Zooplankton, slightly larger organisms, feed on phytoplankton and are in turn eaten by small fish, which are eaten by larger fish, and so on up the food chain. Without these microscopic organisms, ocean ecosystems would collapse, and with them, much of life on Earth. Even the sand on beaches contains countless microbes, breaking down organic material and recycling nutrients. The ocean isn't just blue water, it's a living soup of invisible organisms that to sustain the planet. Phytoplankton produce about half the oxygen we breathe. Every second breath you take comes from the ocean. Phytoplankton, microscopic organisms that drift near the water's surface, perform photosynthesis, just like plants on land. They use sunlight to convert carbon dioxide and water into energy, releasing oxygen as a byproduct. Though each individual is tiny, their sheer numbers make them one of the most important oxygen producers on the planet. They're found in oceans and freshwater bodies worldwide, forming the foundation of aquatic food webs. Different species thrive in different conditions, some in cold polar waters, others in tropical seas. When conditions are right, phytoplankton can bloom, multiplying rapidly and turning the water green or brown. These blooms are visible from space and can cover thousands of square miles. Phytoplankton remind us that life support systems aren't always visible or obvious. The invisible microbes drifting in the ocean are as essential to our survival as the forests on land. Some bacteria in the ocean glow with bioluminescence. In the darkness of the deep ocean, some bacteria produce their own light through a chemical reaction called bioluminescence. These glowing bacteria often live in symbiotic relationships with marine animals. For example, certain squid and fish have special organs filled with bioluminescent bacteria. The animals use this light for various purposes: to attract prey, communicate with potential mates, or confuse predators. The bacteria benefit from a safe environment and nutrients provided by their host. When you see glowing waves at night on some beaches, you're witnessing dinoflagellates, single-celled organisms that flash when disturbed. This natural light show is a defense mechanism, startling predators or attracting larger animals that might eat the predators. Bioluminescence is a beautiful reminder of the creativity of evolution. Even bacteria have found ways to produce light, turning the ocean depths into a realm of living stars. Marine bacteria help regulate Earth's climate. The ocean plays a crucial role in regulating global climate, and marine bacteria are key players in this process. They participate in the carbon cycle, absorbing carbon dioxide through photosynthesis and converting it into organic matter. When these organisms die, some sink to the ocean floor, effectively removing carbon from the atmosphere and storing it in deep-sea sediments for thousands or even millions of years. This biological carbon pump helps moderate Earth's temperature. Marine bacteria also influence cloud formation. Some produce sulfur compounds that drift into the atmosphere and act as nuclei for water vapor to condense around, forming clouds. More clouds can reflect more sunlight, cooling the planet. The microscopic life in the ocean is intimately connected to weather patterns, ocean chemistry, and global climate. These tiny organisms, invisible to our eyes, help maintain the delicate balance that makes Earth habitable. Life's smallest engineers, bacteria, are used to clean up oil spills and pollution. Some bacteria have evolved to break down petroleum and other pollutants, and scientists have learned to harness this ability for environmental cleanup. After oil spills, certain bacterial species naturally begin consuming the oil, breaking it down into less harmful substances. This process, called bioremediation, can be enhanced by adding nutrients that help bacteria grow faster, or by introducing specific bacterial strains. Bacteria have also been used to clean up heavy metals, pesticides, and other contaminants from soil and water. Some bacteria can even break down plastics, though this process is still slow and being researched for practical applications. Genetic engineering is creating bacteria with enhanced abilities to tackle specific pollutants. These microscopic cleanup crews offer environmentally friendly alternatives to harsh chemicals or expensive mechanical removal. They work slowly but steadily, transforming toxic waste into harmless byproducts, proving that sometimes the smallest workers are the most effective. Genetic engineers use bacteria to produce insulin and other medicines. Modern medicine has enlisted bacteria as pharmaceutical factories. Through genetic engineering, scientists insert human genes into bacteria, turning them into living production facilities. For example, the gene for human insulin is inserted into E. coli bacteria, which then produce insulin identical to what the human pancreas makes. This insulin is harvested, purified, and used to treat diabetes. Before this technology, insulin came from animal pancreases, which was expensive and sometimes caused allergic reactions. Now, bacteria produce it efficiently and affordably. The same approach produces other medicines, including growth hormones, clotting factors for hemophiliacs, and vaccines. Bacteria grow quickly and are easy to maintain in bilia, large fermentation tanks, making them ideal for large-scale production. This partnership between human ingenuity and bacterial biology has transformed medicine, making life-saving treatments accessible to millions who might otherwise go without. Bacteria can generate electricity in microbial fuel cells. Some bacteria have a remarkable ability. They can transfer electrons to external materials, essentially producing electricity. Scientists have developed microbial fuel cells that harness this ability. In these devices, bacteria break down organic matter and transfer the electrons they release to an electrode, creating an electric current. While the power output is currently small, researchers are exploring ways to scale up the technology. Microbial fuel cells could potentially treat wastewater while generating electricity, turning sewage treatment plants into power producers. They could also provide power in remote locations where traditional infrastructure is impractical. Some researchers envision using them to power small sensors or devices in environments where replacing batteries is difficult. The idea that bacteria could help solve energy challenges is exciting. These microbes, evolved over billions of years to extract energy from their environment, might help us do the same in more sustainable ways. Scientists are exploring bacteria that can produce biofuels. As the world searches for alternatives to fossil fuels, bacteria offer promising solutions. Some bacteria naturally produce compounds that can be used as fuels, like ethanol, butanol, or even hydrocarbons similar to diesel. Through genetic engineering, scientists are enhancing these abilities, creating bacterial strains that produce higher yields, or that can use cheaper feedstocks like agricultural waste or algae. The advantage of biofuels from bacteria is that they're renewable and can be carbon neutral or even carbon negative, depending on how they're produced. The challenge is making this process economically competitive with fossil fuels. Research continues into optimizing bacterial strains, improving fermentation processes, and reducing costs. If successful, bacteria could help power vehicles, generate electricity, and reduce our dependence on oil. Once again, the microscopic world offers solutions to human challenges, providing renewable energy through the same metabolic processes bacteria have used for billions of years. The personal microbiome. Every person's microbiome is as unique as a fingerprint. Just as no two people have identical fingerprints, no two people have exactly the same microbial community. Your microbiome, the collection of all the microorganisms living in and on your body, is shaped by many factors. Your genes influence which bacteria can colonize you. Your birth method matters. Babies born vaginally acquire different initial bacteria than those born by cesarean section. Your diet, environment, medications, stress levels, sleep patterns, and even the people you live with all affect your microbiome. Over time, your microbial community changes, responding to your lifestyle and health. This uniqueness means that personalized medicine might one day target your specific microbiome. Understanding your unique microbial signature could help doctors predict disease risk, tailor treatments, and improve outcomes. Your microbiome is part of what makes you, a living, dynamic ecosystem that's entirely your own. Your microbiome changes throughout your life. The microbial community you're born with is very different from the one you'll have in old age. Babies are colonized by microbes during birth and shortly after, establishing their first microbial communities. These early colonizers are influenced by whether the baby is breastfed or formula-fed, each providing different nutrients that favor different bacteria. As you grow and your diet diversifies, so does your microbiome. During adulthood, the microbiome tends to stabilize, though it still responds to diet, stress, illness, and antibiotics. In old age, the microbiome often becomes less diverse, which may contribute to age-related health issues. Understanding these changes helps scientists develop interventions to maintain healthy microbial communities throughout life. Your microbiome is not static, but evolves with you, adapting to each stage of life. It's a reminder that we're constantly changing, not just physically, but also in the invisible ecosystems we carry. Stress and sleep affect the bacteria in your gut. Your mental and emotional state influences your microbiome in surprising ways. Chronic stress alters gut bacteria, reducing diversity and shifting the balance toward species associated with inflammation and disease. This happens partly through stress hormones that affect the gut environment, and partly through changes in eating habits and digestion. Poor sleep has similar effects, disrupting the balance of gut bacteria and potentially contributing to metabolic problems and weakened immunity. The relationship goes both ways. Your gut bacteria produce neurotransmitters and other compounds that influence your brain and mood, sometimes called the gut-brain axis. This means your microbiome can affect how you feel, and how you feel can affect your microbiome. Managing stress through relaxation techniques, getting adequate sleep, and maintaining a healthy lifestyle supports not just your mental health, but also the trillions of microbes that depend on you. Taking care of yourself means taking care of them, too. Antibiotics can disrupt your microbiome for months or years. Antibiotics are powerful tools, but they're not selective. While targeting harmful bacteria, they also kill beneficial ones in your gut, skin, and elsewhere. A single course of antibiotics can significantly reduce microbial diversity, and recovery can take months or even years. Sometimes the microbiome never fully returns to its pre-antibiotic state. This disruption can have consequences, including increased susceptibility to infections, digestive issues, and even long-term changes in metabolism and immune function. That's why antibiotics should only be used when truly necessary for bacterial infections, not for viral illnesses like colds or flu. If you do need antibiotics, taking probiotics during and after treatment may help restore balance, though research is ongoing about the best approaches. The microbiome's fragility reminds us to use antibiotics wisely, preserving both their effectiveness and the microbial communities that keep us healthy. Invisible protectors. Breast milk contains bacteria that help establish a baby's microbiome. Breast milk is more than nutrition. It's a living fluid containing beneficial bacteria that colonize a baby's gut, helping establish a healthy microbiome from the very beginning. Milk also contains prebiotics, special sugars that the baby can't digest, but that feed beneficial bacteria. This, the combination of bacteria and their food, helps train the infant's developing immune system and protects against harmful pathogens. Breastfed babies tend to have different, more diverse gut microbiomes than formula-fed babies, and this early difference may influence health throughout life. The bacteria in breast milk likely come from the mother's gut, traveling through a pathway scientists are still working to fully understand. This transfer is yet another example of how interconnected we are with the microbial world. From our very first moments, bacteria are shaping our health, passed from mother to child as a microscopic inheritance. Babies pick up their first bacteria during birth. The moment of birth is also the moment of microbial colonization. As a baby passes through the birth canal, it's coated with bacteria from the mother's vaginal and intestinal microbiomes. These bacteria, particularly Lactobacillus species, quickly colonize the baby's skin, mouth, and gut, providing initial protection and beginning to train the immune system. Babies born by cesarean section have a different initial colonization, picking up more bacteria from skin and the hospital environment. While this doesn't doom them to poor health, it does create a different starting point. Some hospitals now practice vaginal seeding, transferring vaginal bacteria to cesarean-born babies to mimic natural exposure, though this remains somewhat controversial. The birth process is a microbial handoff, a critical moment when a mother shares her protective bacterial community with her newborn, giving them the invisible tools they'll need to thrive. Your mouth contains hundreds of species of bacteria. Your mouth is one of the most diverse microbial habitats in your body. Hundreds of bacterial species live on your tongue, gums, teeth, and the lining of your cheeks and throat. Some of these bacteria are beneficial, helping to prevent cavities and gum disease by competing with harmful species. Others can cause problems if they overgrow. The balance is maintained by good oral hygiene. Brushing and flossing remove food particles and disrupt bacterial colonies before they can form problematic biofilms like plaque. Your saliva also contains antimicrobial compounds that help control bacterial populations. Different areas of your mouth host different communities, adapted to local conditions. The bacteria on your tongue differ from those on your teeth, which differ from those in your gums. This diversity is normal and healthy. Your mouth is a thriving ecosystem, and maintaining its balance is key to oral and overall health. Some mouth bacteria protect you from tooth decay. Not all bacteria in your mouth are enemies. Some actually help prevent cavities. Certain species produce compounds that inhibit the growth of Streptococcus mutans, the primary bacteria responsible for tooth decay. These helpful bacteria compete for space and resources, crowding out harmful species before they can establish colonies. They also help maintain a neutral pH in your mouth, counteracting the acids that erode tooth enamel. Researchers are exploring probiotic treatments that introduce or boost these beneficial oral bacteria, potentially offering new ways to prevent cavities beyond brushing and fluoride. The idea is to support your mouth's natural defenses rather than just fighting bacteria indiscriminately. This approach recognizes that oral health isn't about eliminating all bacteria, but maintaining a balanced, diverse community where helpful species keep harmful ones in check. Once again, the microscopic world offers nuance. Not all germs are bad, and some are actively protecting you. Ancient partnerships, mitochondria in your cells, were once independent bacteria. One of the most profound discoveries in biology is that parts of your own cells were once separate organisms. Mitochondria, the powerhouses that generate energy in nearly every cell of your body, were originally free-living bacteria billions of years ago. Through a process called endosymbiosis, these bacteria were engulfed by larger cells but not destroyed. Instead, they formed a partnership. The host cell provided protection and nutrients, while the bacteria provided efficient energy production. Over time, this relationship became permanent. The bacteria lost many of their genes, transferring others to the host's nucleus, and became fully integrated as mitochondria. They still retain their own DNA, distinct from your nuclear DNA, a remnant of their bacterial ancestry. This ancient partnership was revolutionary, enabling the evolution of complex, energy-hungry organisms like animals. Every breath you take powers these former bacteria, still working inside your cells after billions of years. Plants also contain ancient bacterial partners called chloroplasts. Just as animals carry mitochondria, plants carry chloroplasts, and they too were once independent bacteria. These photosynthetic bacteria were engulfed by early plant ancestors and became permanent residents. Chloroplasts capture sunlight and convert it into chemical energy, producing the sugars that plants use for growth and releasing oxygen as a byproduct. Like mitochondria, chloroplasts retain their own DNA, evidence of their bacterial origins. This endosymbiotic event transformed life on Earth. It allowed organisms to harness solar energy directly, creating the foundation for all plant life and the oxygen-rich atmosphere we depend on. Every leaf, every blade of grass, every tree contains billions of these ancient bacterial descendants. The green world around us exists because of a partnership formed billions of years ago between bacteria and larger cells. It's a beautiful reminder that cooperation, not just competition, drives evolution and creates complexity. Lichens are partnerships between fungi and algae or bacteria. Walk through a forest, and you'll see lichens growing on rocks and trees, looking like crusty patches, leafy fronds, or bushy growths. But lichens aren't a single organism. They're partnerships between fungi and photosynthetic partners, either algae or cyanobacteria. The fungus provides structure, protection, and absorbs water and minerals. The photosynthetic partner produces food through photosynthesis, sharing it with the fungus. Together, they can survive in harsh environments where neither could live alone. Lichens colonize bare rock, Arctic tundra, and desert surfaces, slowly breaking down rock and contributing to soil formation. They're extremely slow-growing. Some individuals may be hundreds or thousands of years old. They're also sensitive to air pollution, making them useful indicators of environmental health. Lichens remind us that some of life's most successful strategies involve cooperation. By partnering with other organisms, even microbes, life can conquer environments that would otherwise be barren. Coral reefs depend on algae living inside coral cells. Coral reefs, among the most diverse ecosystems on Earth, are built through partnership. Corals are animals, but they host photosynthetic algae called zooxanthellae inside their cells. These algae capture sunlight and produce sugars, most of which they share with the coral. In return, the coral provides the algae with protection and access to sunlight in clear, shallow waters. This relationship allows corals to thrive in nutrient-poor tropical waters and build the massive reef structures that support countless other species. When corals are stressed by warming water temperatures or pollution, they expel their algae, a process called bleaching. Without their photosynthetic partners, corals starve and often die. Coral bleaching is becoming more common due to climate change, threatening reefs worldwide. The beauty and biodiversity of coral reefs depend on microscopic algae, invisible partnerships that create underwater cities teeming with life. It's yet another example of how the invisible world supports visible wonders. The invisible threat. Some bacteria cause disease by producing toxins. Not all disease-causing bacteria directly invade and destroy your cells. Some produce toxins, poisonous compounds that cause symptoms. For example, the bacteria that cause tetanus, Clostridium tetani, produce a toxin that affects your nervous system, causing muscle spasms and paralysis. The cholera bacterium produces a toxin that disrupts the intestinal lining, causing severe diarrhea and dehydration. Botulism, one of the most potent toxins known, is produced by bacteria in improperly canned food and blocks nerve signals, causing paralysis. Interestingly, doctors use tiny, controlled doses of botulism toxin, Botox, for medical and cosmetic purposes, paralyzing specific muscles to smooth wrinkles or treat certain conditions. Understanding how bacterial toxins work has led to treatments and vaccines that neutralize these poisons before they cause harm. It's a reminder that bacteria have diverse strategies for survival, and some are devastatingly effective at disrupting the complex machinery of larger organisms like us. Viruses cause disease by hijacking your cells. Unlike bacteria, which are living cells, viruses are essentially microscopic hijackers. They can't reproduce on their own, so they invade your cells, inject their genetic material, and take control. The infected cell becomes a factory, producing thousands of new virus particles, instead of carrying out its normal functions. Eventually, the cell bursts, releasing viruses that go on to infect more cells. This process damages or destroys tissues, causing disease. Different viruses target different cell types. The flu virus prefers respiratory cells. HIV targets immune cells. Hepatitis viruses attack liver cells. Your immune system fights back by identifying and destroying infected cells. But this response can also contribute to symptoms like inflammation and fever. Antiviral medications work by interfering with various stages of viral replication, though they're often less effective than antibiotics are against bacteria. Viruses are simple yet devastatingly effective. Examples of evolution stripped to its bare essentials, just genetic information in a protein shell. Parasites are organisms that live on or inside other organisms. Parasites are a diverse group, including worms, protozoa, and even some fungi and bacteria. What they have in common is that they live in or on a host organism, deriving nutrition at the host's expense. Some parasites cause obvious disease. Malaria, caused by a protozoan parasite transmitted by mosquitoes, kills hundreds of thousands of people each year. Tapeworms can grow meters long inside intestines. Others are more subtle, causing chronic fatigue, digestive issues, or nutrient deficiencies. Some parasites have complex life cycles, requiring multiple hosts. For instance, the parasite that causes toxoplasmosis reproduces in cats, but can infect almost any warm-blooded animal, including humans. Parasites have evolved remarkable strategies to evade immune systems and exploit their hosts. While they're often harmful, some scientists are exploring whether certain parasites might have benefits, potentially helping regulate immune responses and preventing autoimmune diseases. The relationship between parasites and hosts is complex, sometimes harmful, but occasionally surprisingly nuanced. Hand washing is one of the most effective ways to prevent disease. It sounds almost too simple, but washing your hands with soap and water is one of the most powerful public health interventions ever discovered. Before people understood germ theory, hospitals were dangerous places where infections spread easily. In the mid-1800s, a doctor named Ignaz Semmelweis noticed that when doctors washed their hands before delivering babies, maternal mortality rates dropped dramatically. His colleagues initially rejected his findings, but eventually, hand washing became standard practice. Soap works by loosening the oils on your skin where microbes cling, allowing water to rinse them away. You don't need antibacterial soap. Regular soap is just as effective and doesn't contribute to antibiotic resistance. 20 seconds of scrubbing, about the time it takes to sing Happy Birthday twice, is enough to significantly reduce germs. This simple act has saved countless lives and remains one of the easiest ways to protect yourself and others from infection. The invisible balance. Too much cleanliness might weaken your immune system. There's a theory called the hygiene hypothesis that suggests our modern obsession with cleanliness might have unintended consequences. The idea is that exposure to microbes, especially in early childhood, helps train the immune system to distinguish between harmless and harmful substances. Without this training, the immune system may overreact to harmless things, like pollen or food proteins, causing allergies and asthma. Rates of allergic diseases have increased in developed countries, where children grow up in very clean environments, with less exposure to diverse microbes. Some exposure to dirt, animals, and other children may actually be beneficial, helping develop a balanced, well-regulated immune system. This doesn't mean abandoning hygiene. Hand washing and food safety remain important, but it suggests that some microbial exposure, especially early in life, might be healthy. The microscopic world isn't just something to avoid. It's something we need to interact with to develop properly. Antibacterial soaps are not more effective than regular soap. Despite marketing claims, antibacterial soaps don't prevent illness better than regular soap and water. The antibacterial chemicals in these products often triclosan or triclocarbon, require several minutes of contact to kill bacteria, far longer than people typically wash their hands. Regular soap is effective because it mechanically removes microbes, lifting them off your skin so they can be rinsed away. You don't need to kill bacteria on your hands, just remove them. Moreover, antibacterial chemicals may contribute to antibiotic resistance and have environmental effects when they wash down drains. Some studies suggest they might also disrupt hormone function. Because of these concerns, the FDA has banned many antibacterial chemicals from consumer soaps. The lesson is clear: simple soap and water, used properly, is all you need. Sometimes the old, simple methods are the best, and adding chemicals doesn't always mean better results. Your pets share their microbiomes with you. If you live with pets, you share more than just space. You share microbes. Dogs, cats, and other animals have their own microbiomes, and through close contact, you exchange bacteria. You pick up microbes from your pet's fur, and they pick up microbes from your skin. Studies show that dog owners have more diverse skin microbiomes than people without pets, and some of those bacteria come from their dogs. This exchange might have health benefits. Children who grow up with pets have lower rates of allergies and asthma, possibly because early exposure to pet-associated microbes helps train their immune systems. Pets bring outdoor microbes inside, increasing the diversity of the home microbiome. Of course, basic hygiene is still important. Washing your hands after handling pets and their waste prevents exposure to harmful pathogens. But the microbial exchange between pets and people is mostly beneficial. Another example of how diverse microbial exposure supports health. Fermented foods are rich in beneficial bacteria. Fermentation is one of humanity's oldest food preservation techniques, and it turns out to be good for more than just flavor and shelf life. Fermented foods like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, and kombucha are rich in live bacteria, particularly lactobacillus species. When you eat these foods, you're consuming billions of living microbes, many of which can temporarily colonize your gut or support your existing microbiome. These bacteria help digest food, produce vitamins, and may even improve mood and mental health. Different fermented foods contain different bacterial strains, so eating a variety provides diverse benefits. Fermentation also makes some nutrients more bioavailable and creates new compounds that may have health benefits. Across cultures, fermented foods are dietary staples, from Korean kimchi to German sauerkraut to Indian lassi. Our ancestors unknowingly harnessed the power of beneficial bacteria, creating foods that nourish not just us, but also the trillions of microbes that help keep us healthy. The invisible future scientists are developing bacteria that can detect diseases. Bacteria are being engineered to act as tiny biosensors, detecting diseases and environmental conditions. Researchers have created bacteria that can identify cancer cells, producing a signal when they encounter tumor markers. Others are being designed to detect specific toxins or pathogens in water or food. Some experimental treatments involve bacteria that seek out infections or tumors, delivering drugs directly where they're needed, with minimal side effects. Because bacteria are living organisms, they can be programmed with genetic circuits that respond to specific conditions, essentially becoming microscopic computers. These applications are still mostly experimental, but they represent a new frontier in medicine and environmental monitoring. The idea is to work with bacteria, using their natural abilities and enhancing them through genetic engineering. The microscopic world isn't just something we study or fight against. It's becoming a partner in solving some of humanity's biggest challenges. Fecal transplants use healthy gut bacteria to treat disease. It sounds unusual, but fecal transplants have proven remarkably effective for certain conditions. The procedure involves transferring stool from a healthy donor into a patient's intestines, introducing a diverse, balanced microbiome. This is particularly effective for treating recurrent Clostridium difficile infections, a dangerous condition where harmful bacteria overgrow in the gut, often after antibiotic use. Traditional treatments fail in many cases, but fecal transplants succeed more than 90% of the time. Researchers are also exploring whether fecal transplants could help with inflammatory bowel diseases, obesity, and even mental health conditions. Since gut bacteria influence so many aspects of health, the procedure might be refined into standardized, pill-form probiotics containing defined bacterial mixtures. Fecal transplants remind us that health isn't just about what we remove or kill, but also about what we restore and nurture. Sometimes the best medicine is simply re-establishing balance in the invisible ecosystem within us. CRISPR technology allows precise editing of bacterial genes. CRISPR, a revolutionary gene editing tool, was actually discovered in bacteria. It's part of their immune system, a way to remember and fight off viruses. Scientists adapted this system to edit genes in any organism with unprecedented precision. In bacteria, CRISPR can be used to add, remove, or modify genes, creating strains with specific abilities, producing medicines, breaking down pollutants, or resisting diseases. The technology is also being explored to combat antibiotic-resistant bacteria by targeting and destroying resistance genes. CRISPR could even be used to edit the human microbiome directly, removing harmful bacteria while preserving beneficial ones. The possibilities are vast and still being explored. CRISPR represents a new level of partnership with the microbial world, allowing us to understand and manipulate bacteria with precision that would have seemed like science fiction just a few decades ago. The invisible world and human technology are merging in ways that could transform medicine, agriculture, and environmental protection. Bacteria might help us colonize other planets. As humans look towards space exploration and colonizing other planets, bacteria may be essential partners. They could help produce food, recycle waste, and even generate oxygen in enclosed habitats on Mars or the Moon. Some bacteria can break down Martian soil and extract useful minerals. Others might be engineered to produce building materials or medicines using local resources. In long space journeys, maintaining a healthy microbiome will be crucial for astronaut health, as the closed environment of a spacecraft could allow harmful bacteria to dominate. Scientists are studying how microgravity affects bacteria, finding that some grow faster and become more resistant to antibiotics in space. Understanding these changes is important for keeping astronauts safe. Bacteria have survived on Earth for billions of years through countless environmental changes. As we venture into space, these resilient microbes will likely come with us, and they might just help us survive beyond Earth. The invisible wonder. Every surface you touch is covered in bacteria. Right now, as you lie here, the world around you is teeming with invisible life. Your phone, your keyboard, your doorknob, your toothbrush, all are colonized by bacteria. Some come from your own body, others from other people, pets, soil, water, and air. Most are harmless, part of the normal microbial background of life. Different surfaces host different communities. Your phone likely carries bacteria similar to those on your skin, since you touch it constantly. Kitchen sponges harbor diverse communities that thrive in the moist, nutrient-rich environment. Even surfaces cleaned regularly quickly recolonize as bacteria float in from the air and transfer from our hands. This isn't a cause for alarm, It's simply reality. We live in a world shaped by microbes, and they live in a world shaped by us. The key is balance, maintaining cleanliness where it matters, like food preparation and healthcare settings, while accepting that most microbial exposure is harmless or even beneficial. The invisible coating of life on every surface is a reminder that we're never truly alone, always surrounded by ancient, resilient forms of life that were here long before us. The human body contains about as many non-human cells as human cells. This bears repeating because it's so profound. You are not entirely you. The latest research suggests that bacterial cells in and on your body roughly equal the number of human cells, perhaps about 37 trillion of each. Older estimates suggested bacteria outnumbered human cells 10 to 1, but revised calculations place the ratio closer to 1 to 1. Either way, the numbers are staggering. These microbial cells are much smaller than human cells, so by weight, you're still mostly human. But by cell count, you're a walking ecosystem, a planet hosting countless microscopic inhabitants. These bacteria aren't passengers, but participants in your biology. They digest your food, train your immune system, produce vitamins, protect against pathogens, and even influence your brain chemistry. You are not an individual, but a community, a superorganism whose health depends on maintaining harmony among trillions of diverse life forms. This perspective shifts how we think about health, identity, and our place in the living world. Bacteria have survived every mass extinction event on Earth. Earth has experienced 5 major mass extinction events, catastrophes that wiped out most species alive at the time. Asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, climate shifts. Each disaster transformed the planet and eliminated dominant life forms. Yet bacteria survived them all. When the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs struck 66 million years ago, bacteria living deep underground or in the oceans simply continued existing. When volcanic eruptions darkened the skies and acidified the oceans, extremophile bacteria adapted. They've endured ice ages and periods of extreme heat. Their ability to enter dormant states, reproduce rapidly, and adapt through fast generation times makes them nearly indestructible as a group. Individual bacteria may die, but the collective survives and thrives. In a sense, bacteria are Earth's ultimate survivors, the continuous thread of life running through every era, every upheaval. They were here before us, and they'll almost certainly be here long after we're gone, quietly keeping the planet's cycles running. Some bacteria live in radioactive waste for decades. Among the most extreme environments on Earth are sites of nuclear accidents and radioactive waste storage. Yet even there, bacteria thrive. Deinococcus radiodurans, nicknamed Conan the bacterium, can withstand radiation doses thousands of times higher than what would kill a human. Its DNA is broken apart by radiation, but the bacterium can reconstruct it, repairing damage that would be lethal to other organisms. Scientists discovered similar bacteria at Chernobyl, not just surviving but seemingly thriving in highly radioactive zones. These microbes might help clean up nuclear waste sites, breaking down contaminants in environments too dangerous for humans to enter. They also teach us about DNA repair mechanisms that could have medical applications. The ability of bacteria to survive in such extreme conditions expands our understanding of life's limits. If bacteria can survive intense radiation, extreme temperatures, and toxic chemicals, what other harsh environments might harbor life, including potentially on other worlds? Bacteria can survive the vacuum of space. Space is one of the most hostile environments imaginable, with vacuum, extreme temperatures, and intense radiation. Yet some bacteria can survive even there. Experiments on the International Space Station have exposed bacteria to the vacuum of space for extended periods. While most died, some survived, especially when protected by layers of other dead cells or minerals. Bacterial spores, dormant forms that can wait out harsh conditions, are particularly resilient. This raises fascinating questions about panspermia, the theory that life might spread between planets on meteorites. If bacteria can survive space travel, life on Earth might have originated elsewhere, or Earth life might have seeded other worlds. It also matters for planetary protection. We must be careful not to contaminate other planets with Earth bacteria on our spacecraft. The hardiness of bacteria in space conditions shows once again that these simple organisms are far tougher than they appear. Survivors capable of enduring conditions that would instantly destroy complex life. The invisible teacher's bacteria teach us about evolution in real time. Because bacteria reproduce so quickly, scientists can observe evolution happening in real time. A bacterial population can go through hundreds or thousands of generations in a matter of weeks, allowing researchers to watch mutations arise, spread, and become dominant. These experiments have revealed fundamental principles about how evolution works, how populations adapt to new conditions, the role of random mutations versus natural selection, and how quickly resistance to antibiotics or other challenges can develop. One famous experiment, started by Richard Lenski in 1988, has followed E. coli bacteria for tens of thousands of generations, documenting their evolutionary changes in unprecedented detail. These studies show that evolution isn't just a historical process, but an ongoing one, observable and testable. Bacteria serve as living laboratories, teaching us about the mechanisms that have shaped all life on Earth, including ourselves. The invisible world offers visible lessons about where we came from and how life changes over time. Studying bacteria helped scientists understand genetics. Some of the most important discoveries in genetics came from studying bacteria and the viruses that infect them. In 1952, experiments with bacteriophages proved that DNA, not protein, carries genetic information. Bacteria were used to crack the genetic code, figuring out how sequences of DNA bases correspond to amino acids in proteins. The restriction enzymes that scientists use to cut and paste DNA, the foundation of genetic engineering, were first discovered in bacteria as part of their defense against viruses. The CRISPR gene editing system, now revolutionizing medicine and biotechnology, was found in bacteria. Bacteria are ideal for genetic research because they're simple, grow quickly, and have compact genomes. What scientists learn from bacteria often applies to more complex organisms, including humans. The invisible world has been a teacher, revealing secrets of heredity and molecular biology that have transformed our understanding of life itself. Bacteria help scientists understand the origin of life. How did life begin on Earth? This fundamental question is difficult to answer, but bacteria provide crucial clues. The simplest bacteria alive today are far more complex than the first living things must have been, but they offer hints about what early life might have looked like. By comparing bacterial genes and metabolic pathways, scientists can trace evolutionary relationships back toward common ancestors. Some bacteria use very ancient metabolic processes, like deriving energy from iron or sulfur compounds, that might resemble the chemistry of early life. Studying how bacteria survive in extreme environments helps scientists understand where life might have originated, possibly in deep-sea hydrothermal vents or volcanic hot springs. The RNA molecules that some bacteria use might be relics of an earlier RNA world before DNA and proteins evolved. Every bacterial cell is a time capsule, carrying within it echoes of life's earliest experiments. Understanding bacteria is understanding our deepest origins. Extremophile bacteria hint that life might exist on other planets. The discovery of bacteria in extreme environments on Earth has revolutionized the search for life beyond our planet. If life can thrive in boiling water, frozen ice, acidic lakes, and radioactive waste here, then similar conditions elsewhere might also harbor life. Mars once had liquid water and might still have it underground, environments where extremophiles could survive. Europa and Enceladus, icy moons of Jupiter and Saturn, have subsurface oceans warmed by tidal forces, possible homes for microbial life. Even Venus, despite its hellish surface, might have microbial life in its clouds. The existence of extremophiles expands the habitable zone far beyond what was once thought possible. If we find life elsewhere in the solar system or beyond, it will likely resemble Earth's bacteria more than any complex organism, simple, hardy, and adaptable. The invisible world on Earth guides our search for invisible worlds beyond, teaching us that life is resilient and might be far more common in the universe than we once imagined. The microscopic economy bacteria are involved in making beer and wine. The alcohol in beer and wine comes from fermentation by yeast, a fungus, but bacteria also play important roles. In beer brewing, lactic acid bacteria can create sour beers like lambics and Berliner Weiss, producing tartness that complements malt sweetness. In winemaking, malolactic fermentation by bacteria converts harsh malic acid into softer lactic acid, mellowing the wine's flavor. However, unwanted bacteria can spoil beer and wine, creating off flavors or turning alcohol into vinegar. Brewers and winemakers must carefully control which microbes are present, encouraging beneficial ones while preventing harmful ones. This delicate balance requires knowledge, cleanliness, and sometimes adding specific bacterial or yeast cultures. The craft of making two alcoholic beverages is really the craft of managing microbial communities, guiding their metabolism to create desired flavors. It's been practiced for thousands of years, long before anyone understood the microscopic organisms responsible. Every sip of beer or wine is the product of invisible workers transforming simple ingredients into complex, flavorful drinks. The coffee and chocolate industries depend on bacterial fermentation. Some of the world's most beloved flavors come from microbial fermentation. Coffee beans and cacao beans both undergo fermentation as part of processing. After harvest, coffee, cherries, or cacao pods are piled up, and naturally occurring bacteria and yeast begin breaking down the fruit surrounding the beans. This process, lasting several days, is crucial for developing the complex flavors we associate with coffee and chocolate. The fermentation breaks down sugars, produces acids, and generates aromatic compounds. Without it, coffee would taste flat and bitter. Chocolate would lack its characteristic depth. Farmers control fermentation by managing temperature, moisture, and turning the piles to ensure even processing. Different fermentation conditions create different flavor profiles, which is one reason coffee and chocolate vary so much by region and producer. These beloved drinks and treats owe their complexity to bacteria and yeast, working invisibly, transforming raw beans into the flavorful products we cherish. Bacteria are used in leather tanning and textile production. The role of bacteria extends even into manufacturing. Traditional leather tanning used bacteria-produced enzymes to remove hair and soften hides. Modern tanning still uses bacterial enzymes in some processes, as they're more environmentally friendly than harsh chemicals. In textile production, bacteria help process natural fibers. Retting, the process of separating flax fibers from plant stems to make linen, relies on bacteria that break down the pectin-holding fibers together. This was traditionally done by soaking flax in water and allowing naturally occurring bacteria to do the work. Today, the process is controlled more carefully, but the principle remains the same. Bacteria are even being engineered to produce materials directly. Some bacteria can be programmed to produce spider silk proteins, collagen, or other valuable materials that would be difficult or expensive to obtain otherwise. The microscopic world is not just part of nature, it's part of industry, quietly contributing to products we use every day. Bacteria help extract minerals in industrial processes. Mining and metal processing increasingly rely on bacteria. Some bacteria can extract metals from low-grade ore that would otherwise be unprofitable to mine. They do this by oxidizing metal compounds, releasing the metals into solution where they can be recovered. Copper, gold, uranium, and other valuable metals are extracted this way in a process called bioleaching. It's slower than traditional mining, but more environmentally friendly, and works with ores that are too poor for conventional methods. Bacteria also help clean up mining waste, removing toxic metals from contaminated water. These applications save energy and reduce pollution compared to traditional industrial processes that require high temperatures or harsh chemicals. Once again, bacteria offer sustainable solutions using metabolic processes honed over billions of years. By partnering with these microbes, industry can be more efficient and less harmful to the environment. The invisible world is becoming an industrial partner, helping extract resources from the earth more gently. The living planet bacteria drive the nitrogen cycle that sustains all life. Nitrogen is essential for building proteins and DNA, but most organisms can't use nitrogen gas from the atmosphere. Bacteria make life possible by converting nitrogen into usable forms. Nitrogen-fixing bacteria in soil and water convert atmospheric nitrogen into ammonia, which plants can absorb. Other bacteria convert ammonia into nitrites and nitrates through nitrification. When organisms die, decomposer bacteria return nitrogen to the soil. Denitrifying bacteria convert nitrates back into nitrogen gas, completing the cycle. Without bacteria managing these transformations, nitrogen would be locked away, and life as we know it couldn't exist. Agriculture depends heavily on this cycle. Synthetic fertilizers provide nitrogen, but they're energy-intensive to produce and can pollute waterways. Understanding and supporting natural bacterial nitrogen fixation offers more sustainable alternatives. The nitrogen cycle is invisible but fundamental. Another example of how bacteria maintain the basic chemistry that makes Earth habitable. They're planetary engineers, working constantly to keep nutrients flowing. Bacteria are essential for the carbon cycle and climate regulation. Carbon moves through Earth's systems in a great cycle, and bacteria are key players at every stage. Photosynthetic bacteria and algae capture carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, just like plants. When organisms die, decomposer bacteria break down their bodies, releasing carbon back into the atmosphere or incorporating it into soil. In the ocean, bacteria help transport carbon to the deep sea, where it can be stored for thousands of years. They also produce and consume methane, a potent greenhouse gas. The balance of these bacterial processes influences Earth's climate. Human activities have disrupted these cycles, but understanding bacterial roles might help restore balance. Some scientists are exploring whether we can enhance bacterial carbon capture to mitigate climate change. Others study how warming temperatures affect bacterial communities and feed back into further climate change. The microscopic world doesn't just inhabit Earth, it regulates its atmosphere and temperature, maintaining conditions suitable for life. Bacteria in the ocean produce massive amounts of oxygen. While we often think of forests as Earth's lungs, the ocean deserves equal credit. Marine photosynthetic bacteria, particularly cyanobacteria, like Prochlorococcus, are among the most abundant organisms on the planet. These tiny cells, less than a micrometer across, are so numerous that collectively they produce a huge portion of Earth's oxygen. Some estimates suggest that 1 in every 5 breaths you take comes from oxygen produced by Prochlorococcus alone. These bacteria drift in the sunlit surface waters of the ocean, using chlorophyll to capture sunlight and perform photosynthesis. They're so small and simple that scientists only discovered and identified them in the 1,980 seconds, despite their planetary importance. The ocean's contribution to oxygen production rivals or exceeds that of terrestrial plants, and it's largely thanks to bacteria. The invisible life floating in the sea is literally keeping us breathing, quietly producing oxygen that spreads through the atmosphere and sustains all animal life. Bacteria help create and maintain soil. Soil is not just crushed rock, it's a living ecosystem, and bacteria are essential architects of its formation and fertility. Bacteria break down rock minerals, slowly weathering them and releasing nutrients. They decompose organic matter, turning dead plants and animals into humus, the rich organic component of healthy soil. Bacterial byproducts glue soil particles together, creating structure that holds water and allows roots to penetrate. Some bacteria form partnerships with plant roots, forming nodules where they fix nitrogen. Others produce compounds that suppress plant diseases. The quality of soil, its ability to support plant growth, depends largely on its bacterial communities. Agricultural practices that harm these communities, like excessive tilling or heavy pesticide use, degrade soil health. Conversely, practices that support bacteria, like adding compost or cover cropping, improve soil. Healthy soil is alive with bacteria, and recognizing this has led to more sustainable farming approaches that work with, rather than against, the invisible organisms that create fertility from the ground up. The invisible connection. Your mood and mental health are influenced by gut bacteria. The connection between your gut and brain is profound and only recently appreciated. Gut bacteria produce neurotransmitters, including serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, chemicals that affect mood, anxiety, and cognition. In fact, most of your body's serotonin is produced in the gut, not the brain. Bacteria also produce other compounds that can cross into the bloodstream and affect brain function. Research has found links between gut microbiome composition and conditions like depression, anxiety, autism spectrum disorders, and even Parkinson's disease. While these connections are still being understood, they suggest that mental health isn't purely about brain chemistry, but also about the ecosystem in your gut. Diet, stress, and antibiotics that alter the microbiome might therefore influence mental health. Some researchers are exploring psychobiotics, specific probiotic strains that could improve mood or reduce anxiety. The idea that bacteria in your intestines might influence your thoughts and feelings seems strange, but it's increasingly supported by evidence. Your mind and your microbiome are in constant conversation. Bacteria can influence cravings and eating behavior. This idea sounds like science fiction, but research suggests gut bacteria might influence what you want to eat. Different bacterial species thrive on different nutrients. Some prefer fiber, others prefer fats or sugars. These bacteria produce compounds and signals that might reach the brain and influence cravings in ways that benefit the bacteria themselves. For instance, bacteria that thrive on sugar might encourage sweet cravings, while those that prefer fiber might promote vegetable consumption. The mechanisms are still being studied, but the implications are fascinating. Your food choices might not be entirely your own. They might be influenced by the microscopic communities in your gut. Changing your diet changes your microbiome, and over time, new bacteria colonize and old populations shrink. This might be why diet changes are difficult at first, but easier after a few weeks, as your microbiome adapts to the new food supply. You and your bacteria are partners, and sometimes they have a say in what's for dinner. The microbiome influences your immune system's development. Your immune system doesn't develop in isolation. It learns what's dangerous and what's safe through constant interaction with your microbiome. In early life, exposure to bacteria trains immune cells, teaching them to respond appropriately to threats while tolerating harmless substances. Without this microbial education, the immune system can become confused, attacking harmless things like food proteins, pollen, or even the body's own tissues. This might explain rising rates of autoimmune diseases and allergies in developed countries, where reduced microbial exposure leaves immune systems undertrained. Throughout life, your microbiome continues influencing immunity, producing compounds that regulate inflammation and helping maintain the barrier function of your gut lining. About 70% of your immune system is located in or around your intestines, constantly interacting with gut bacteria. This intimate relationship means that supporting your microbiome through diet and lifestyle doesn't just affect digestion, it influences your entire immune function and your body's ability to defend itself. Social interactions spread bacteria between people. Every handshake, hug, or kiss exchanges microbes. Studies show that people living together develop similar microbiomes as they share bacteria through physical contact and shared environments. Partners who kiss frequently share remarkably similar oral microbiomes. Family members have more similar gut bacteria than unrelated individuals. Even brief interactions transfer bacteria, which is one reason social isolation can affect health. Reduced microbial exchange means reduced microbiome diversity. This bacterial sharing isn't necessarily bad. It's how we constantly refresh and diversify our microbial communities. However, it also explains how infections spread. Harmful bacteria can pass between people just as easily as beneficial ones. Social distancing during disease outbreaks works partly by reducing microbial transmission. The invisible world moves between us constantly. Unseen connections that tie communities together at a microscopic level. Every interaction with another person is also an interaction between your microbial communities, a continuous exchange that's been happening for as long as humans have lived in social groups. The invisible frontier scientists have found bacteria living miles beneath Earth's surface. Life exists not just on Earth's surface but deep within it. Bacteria have been discovered living in rock cracks miles underground, surviving in conditions we barely understand. These deep subsurface bacteria metabolize minerals, extracting energy from rock itself. They live in near total darkness, with no access to sunlight or organic matter from the surface. Their metabolism is incredibly slow. Some divide only once every 1,000 years. Yet they persist, forming a vast underground biosphere that might contain more biomass than all surface life combined. These bacteria challenge our assumptions about what life needs. They survive without light, with minimal nutrients, under immense pressure, demonstrating once again that life finds ways to exist in the most unlikely places. Studying them helps scientists understand life's limits and possibilities, informing the search for life in extreme environments on Earth and potentially on other worlds. The deep subsurface is a hidden frontier, an invisible realm where ancient bacterial communities thrive in perpetual darkness. Some bacteria can produce light through chemical reactions. Bioluminescent bacteria create light through a chemical reaction involving an enzyme called luciferase. When conditions are right, these bacteria glow with a soft blue-green light. Some species live freely in the ocean, creating glowing patches of water when disturbed. Others form symbiotic relationships with marine animals, living in special light organs and providing illumination in exchange for food and shelter. Flashlight fish have glowing patches under their eyes filled with bioluminescent bacteria. The Hawaiian bobtail squid has a light organ full of bacteria that helps it avoid predators by matching the moonlight filtering down from above, eliminating its shadow. Bioluminescence has evolved independently many times, suggesting it offers significant advantages. For bacteria, glowing might help them attract animals that will consume and spread them. Whatever the evolutionary reason, the result is beautiful. Bacteria that paint the dark ocean with living light, creating one of nature's most enchanting displays. Bacteria are being studied for their potential to fight cancer. Research is exploring whether bacteria could become allies in fighting cancer. Some bacteria naturally accumulate in tumors, attracted by the low oxygen and high nutrient environment. Scientists are engineering these bacteria to deliver drugs directly to cancer cells, minimizing side effects on healthy tissue. Other approaches use bacteria to stimulate the immune system to attack tumors more effectively. Some bacterial toxins, properly controlled, might kill cancer cells directly. These strategies are mostly experimental, but early results are promising. The idea of using living organisms to fight disease isn't new. It's an extension of using bacteriophages against bacterial infections, but applying it to cancer is innovative. If successful, bacterial cancer therapies could complement existing treatments, like chemotherapy and radiation. Once again, we're learning to partner with the microscopic world, enlisting bacteria as microscopic soldiers in the fight against disease. Their ability to navigate the body and target specific environments makes them powerful potential tools in medicine's arsenal. The study of ancient bacteria preserved in ice reveals Earth's history. In glaciers and ice sheets, bacteria have been frozen for thousands or millions of years, preserved like fossils. When scientists drill ice cores and study the bacteria trapped within, they can reconstruct past environments and climates. The types of bacteria present, their metabolic capabilities, and their genetic sequences tell stories about what Earth was like when they were alive. Some bacteria date back hundreds of thousands of years, surviving in frozen, suspended animation. When thawed, some return to life, offering the opportunity to study ancient organisms and compare them to their modern descendants. This research reveals how bacteria have evolved over time and how they've responded to past climate changes. It also provides clues about how current climate change might affect microbial communities and the ecosystems they support. Ancient bacteria are time travelers, messengers from the past preserved in ice, waiting to tell us about worlds long gone and lessons that might help us understand the present and future. The invisible legacy bacteria will outlive humanity and most other species. Whatever the future holds for humans and other complex life, bacteria will almost certainly endure. They've survived every catastrophe Earth has faced, and their adaptability makes them nearly indestructible as a group. If climate change, nuclear war, or asteroid impact were to devastate the planet, bacteria would persist, perhaps retreating to deep underground or ocean environments until conditions improved. They would eventually recolonize the surface and continue their planetary role in recycling nutrients and maintaining chemical cycles. In billions of years, when the sun expands and makes Earth uninhabitable for any known life, bacteria might survive longest, perhaps in subsurface refuges. They were Earth's first inhabitants and will likely be the last. This isn't a bleak thought, but rather a testament to life's resilience. The simplest organisms are the most enduring, proof that complexity isn't necessary for survival. Bacteria have witnessed Earth's entire history and will witness its future, silent observers and participants in the planetary story. Every person carries a unique microbial legacy from their ancestors. Just as you inherit genes from your parents, you also inherit microbes. The bacteria passed from mother to child during birth are the first installment of a microbial legacy stretching back generations. Your diet, environment, and experiences shape this inheritance, but its foundation comes from family. In some cultures, traditional fermented foods carry specific bacterial strains passed down through generations, microbial heirlooms that connect families to their culinary past. Your microbiome is thus both personal and ancestral, uniquely yours, yet tied to those who came before. As you interact with others, especially children, you pass along microbes, continuing the chain. This invisible inheritance is as much a part of family legacy as stories, traditions, or genetic traits. It's a living connection to the past and a gift to the future. Trillions of microscopic organisms that carry forward adaptations and relationships developed over lifetimes and generations. Bacteria remind us of our place in the web of life. The more we learn about bacteria, the clearer it becomes that we're not separate from nature, but deeply embedded within it. We depend on bacteria for our health, our food, the air we breathe, and the soil that grows our crops. We carry them with us always, hosting communities that are essential to our survival. This dependence is humbling. Despite our technology and intelligence, we rely on organisms so simple they were invisible to us until recently. We're not masters of nature but participants in it, one species among countless others, all interconnected. Bacteria show us that life is collaborative, that complexity arises from simple parts working together, and that the smallest organisms can have the largest impacts. They invite us to see ourselves as ecosystems rather than individuals, as communities rather than solitary beings. Understanding our relationship with bacteria changes how we think about health, environment, and our responsibility to the living world that supports us. Settling into sleep. And so, dear listener, our journey through the invisible world comes to a gentle close. From the ancient bacteria that first learned to harness sunlight billions of years ago, to the trillions of microbes that live within your body right now, we've explored a realm that exists just beyond sight, yet shapes everything we know. We've seen how these microscopic organisms maintain Earth's atmosphere, create the soil beneath our feet, and partner with every living thing. We've learned that we're not solitary creatures, but walking ecosystems, home to communities as diverse and complex as any rainforest or coral reef. These invisible partners digest our food, protect us from harm, and even influence our moods and thoughts. The microscopic world teaches us humility. It reminds us that the smallest things can be the most important, that survival often depends on cooperation rather than competition, and that life's resilience comes from simplicity and adaptability. Bacteria have witnessed Earth's entire history, from its fiery beginning to the present moment. They've survived every extinction, every climate shift, every catastrophe. They've transformed the planet, making it habitable for complex life. And they'll continue their work long after we're gone, quietly maintaining the cycles that keep Earth alive. As you rest here, imagine the invisible world all around you. Picture the bacteria on your skin, standing guard. Feel the communities in your gut, working even as you sleep to digest your last meal and support your health. Think of the bacteria in the soil outside, breaking down leaves and fixing nitrogen. Consider the phytoplankton in distant oceans, producing oxygen with every moment. All of this happens without thought or effort, an ancient dance of life that continues endlessly, regardless of whether we notice or understand. There's something comforting in this, isn't there? The knowledge that we're part of something vast and ancient, that we're supported by invisible forces that have been perfecting their craft for billions of years. You don't have to do anything. The bacteria will continue their work. Your immune system will keep watch. Your body will rest and repair itself, guided by processes older than consciousness itself. Let your breathing slow and deepen, matching the timeless rhythm of life that pulses through every living thing. Feel yourself settling into stillness, into the quiet peace of knowing you're held and supported by systems you don't have to control or understand. The microscopic world asks nothing of you, except to exist, to live, to rest when you need rest. The story of germs is the story of life itself. Simple beginnings giving rise to endless complexity. Tiny organisms creating a living planet. Cooperation and adaptation leading to beauty and diversity beyond measure. And you're part of that story, carrying within you billions of years of evolution, hosts to communities that are uniquely yours, a living bridge between past and future. As sleep approaches, let go of the day's concerns. Let go of what you need to do tomorrow. Rest in the knowledge that life will continue its patient work. The bacteria will keep cycling nutrients, producing oxygen, maintaining balance. Your body will heal and restore itself. The world will turn, and the invisible web of life will hold everything in its gentle, persistent embrace. Close your eyes if they aren't closed already. Feel the weight of your body, supported and still. Notice your breath, slow and steady. And drift now. Drift into sleep, into darkness, into the deep rest where cells repair and memories consolidate, where the conscious mind releases control and allows the ancient wisdom of the body to take over. The invisible world will be here when you wake, as it has been every morning of your life, faithful and tireless, asking nothing, giving everything. Let that knowledge carry you into sleep, into peace, into the timeless quiet where all boundaries dissolve, and you become simply another part of the endless flow of life. Rest now. Sleep well. Let the invisible world hold you. Good night.